Hi guys, good afternoon. Especially to our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines. We are the group 1 and these are our members. Leader, Rialin Espina. Members, Neil Ramon Alegre Tabora, Benedict John DOMUGHO, Elvin Dave L. ANGANA, Freddy L. ABESON Jr., Arvin D. MELEGRITO, Ralph Benji NORIO. And before we start, let me tell you about the reminders. This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, to use this as an educational material. So let's start. Our topic is Asian regionalism. And these are our objectives. To know more about Asian regionalism. Second, to understand the advantages and disadvantages of regionalism. And lastly, to know the factors of regionalism. And the first one to be reported is me, and let me introduce myself. I am Helvin Dave L. ANGANA. So, what is Asian regionalism? Asian regionalism is the product of economic interaction, not political planning. As a result of successful outward-oriented growth strategies, Asian economies have grown not only richer, but also closer together. In recent years, new technological trends have further strengthened ties among them, as have the rise of the PRC and India and the region's growing weight in the global economy. But adversity also played a role. The 1997-1998 financial crisis dealt a severe setback to much of the region, highlighting Asia's shared interest and common vulnerability and providing an impetus for regional cooperation. In the early stage of Asian economics takeoff, regional integration proceeded slowly. East Asian economies, in particular, focuses on exporting to developed country market rather than selling to each other. Initially, they specialized in simple, labor-intensive manufacturers. As the more advanced among them graduated to more sophisticated products, less developed economy filled the gap that they left behind. Now, though Asian economies are becoming closely intertwined, this is not because the region development strategy has changed. It remains predominantly non-discriminatory and outward-oriented rather. Interdependence is deepening because Asian economies have grown large and prosperous enough to become important to each other, and because their patterns of production increasingly depends on network that span several Asian economies and involving wide-ranging exchanges of part and component among them. Asia is at the center of the development of such production network because it has efficient transport and communication link, as well as policies geared to supporting trade. As this new production pattern tie Asian economies closer together, they also boost the international competitiveness of the region's firm. Then next, why there is an Asian regionalism. So first is the center of gravity of the global economy is shifting to Asia. The region's economy is already similar in size to those of Europe and North America, and its influence in the world continues to increase. In many Asian countries, the cycle of poverty has been broken. In others, this historic aim is within sight. Asia's extraordinary success has brought new challenges, while rapid economic growth remains in priority. Citizens demand that it is also sustainable and more exclusive. And in Asia, it's now important to the world economy that it must also play a large role in global economic leadership. Regional economic cooperation is essential for addressing these challenges. Then, regionalism is relatively new aspect of Asia's rise. Asia's economies are increasingly connected through trade, financial transaction, direct investment, technology, labor and tourist flow, and other economic relationships. Then, this structure and policy architecture of the world economy, as it emerges from the historic challenges now underway, will be affected by the dramatic rise of Asia's economy and deepening connections among them. This important book examines the rapid transformation of the Asia economy, the challenges it faces, emerging regional solutions, and how Asia can play more constructive roles in the global economy. Though Asia is becoming not just the world's factory but also its leading creditor and one of its key sources of dynamism and stability. Key questions are identified and addressed in three areas. First is Asia's growth and productivity. Second, financial stability. And third, and lastly, regional economic integration. In each of these areas, the contributing authors evaluate current trends, and the forces shaping the future. They consider whether the region's progress is sustainable and what it will take to make it. The stake could not be higher. Dynamic and outward-looking Asian regionalism can bring huge benefits not just to Asia, but to the world. It could help us sustain the region's growth, underpin its stability, and with the right policies, reduce inequality. And it could help marshal a common response to major challenges that often arise suddenly and unexpectedly. As this study goes to press, for instance, Asia is grappling with the range economic and financial uncertainty sparked by the global credit crunch since August 2007. Several devastating natural disasters and the pressing need to ensure affordable food supplies throughout Asia. A vibrant, integrated Asia could bring the region's immense and intellectual and economic resources to bear on these tomorrow's challenges. And it could help power and stabilize the global economy by boosting productivity, rising living standards, and reduce poverty everywhere. A stable, cohesive, and productive Asia is thus in everyone's interest.
So, good morning classmates, good morning sir. I'm Engine Cadet MELEGRITO TABORA. I'm the one to report the examples of regionalisms. Examples of regionalism. So, the perceived difference between Northerners and New Englanders is one of the example of regionalism. The English often talk about the great divide between the North and the South. There are many differences in culture and attitudes. Whereas Northerners are seen as being open, talkative, and sociable. Southerners are considered more withdrawn, treating strangers politely and correctly. Examples of economic regionalisms include free trade agreements, bilateral trade, agreements, common markets, and economic unions. In the decades following World War II, several regional economic integration arrangements were established in Europe, including the European Free Trade Association in 1960 and the European Community in 1957, which reorganized into the European Union in 1993. The number and success of such agreements flourished after the tension of the world of the Cold War had faded. For example, the North American Free Trade Agreement (NAFTA) and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) Free Trade Area depend on geographic proximity as well as relatively homogeneous political structures, particularly democracy and shared culture traditions. Types of economic regionalisms can be classified by their levels of integration. Free trade areas such as the European Free Trade Association, which eliminates or greatly reduces customs duties between its members, are the most basic expression of economic regionalism. Custom unions such as the European Union display a higher degree of integration by imposing a common tariff on non-member nations. Common markets like the European Economic Area add to this arrangement by allowing the free movement of capital and labor between members countries. Monetary union such as the European Monetary System, which operated from 1979 to 1999, requires a high degree of political integration between member nations, strives for total economic integration. Through the use of a common currency, a common economic policy, and the elimination of all tariff and non-tariff trade barriers, economic regionalism features a high level of institutional integration, achieved through shared rules and decision-making processes designed to limit the autonomy of individual member countries. Today's European Union is considered an example of Thai economic regionalism, having evolved from a free trade area to a custom union, common market, and finally to an economic and currency union. In contrast, loose economic regionalism lacks such formal and binding institutional arrangement, relying instead on informal consultative mechanism and consensus building. NAFTA as a full-blown free trade area that falls short of being an economic union, falls in loosely defined category between Thai and loose economic regionalism. Regional economic arrangement may also be classified according to how they treat non-member countries. Open arrangement impose no trade limitations, exclusions, or discrimination against non-member nations. Unconditional most favored nation status in compliance with the General Agreement on Tariff and Trade is a typical feature of open regionalism. In contrast, closed forms of regional economic arrangement impose protectionist measures to limit non-members' access to the markets of non-members countries. Free trade agreements, bilateral trade agreements, common markets, and economic unions, these are the examples of regionalism. This is also an example of regionalism. So first, the free trade agreements Free trade agreements are the treaties between two or more countries designed to be reduce or eliminate certain barriers to trade and investment and to facilitate stronger trade and commercial ties between participating countries. So, a, a free trade area is where are no important tariffs or quotas on products from one country entering another. For example, free trade areas include EFTA, European Free Trade Association, consists of Norway, Iceland, Switzerland, and Liechtenstein, NAFTA, United States, Mexico, and Canada. Second is the bilateral trade agreements. Bilateral trade agreements are agreements between countries to promote trade and commerce. They eliminate trade barriers such as tariffs, import quotas, and export restraints in order to encourage trade and investment. Any sales agreements is an example of bilateral contract. A car buyer may agree to pay the seller a certain amount of money in exchange for the title to the car. The seller agrees to deliver the car title in exchange for the specified sale amount. And next is the common market. Is a formal agreement where a group is formed among several countries that adopt a commonly external tariff. Tariffs are common element in international trading. So, the most famous example of a common market is the European Common Market, which aims to provide the free movement of goods, capital, service, and labor within the European Union. It refers to an agreement between countries that allows products, services, and workers to cross borders freely. Economic union is an agreement between two or more nations allow goods, services, money, and workers to move over borders freely. Countries may also coordinate social and financial policies to support this common market. European Union is an example of an economic union. The countries of the EU coordinate their respective economic policies, laws, and regulations so they can work together to address economic and financial issues. The EU also has a common currency, the euro, used by 19 EU members. So, regionalism is development of political, economic, or social system based on a loyalty to a distinct geographic region with a largely ideological and culturally homogeneous population. Regionalism often leads to formal agreed to arrangement between groups of countries intended to express a common sense of identity while achieving a common goals in improving quality of life.
So, good day, everyone. I am Engine Cadet DOMUGHO Benediction, and I'm going to report or tackle the advantages and disadvantage of regionalism. so before we're going to tackle about the advantages and disadvantages, we're going to know first the regionalism. Regionalism is contemporary regionalism is often close related to the rising ecological awareness. So, in which attention is paid to the implication of human interaction with landscape and nature from this point of view. Regionalism concerns the defense of cultural distinction alongside the preservation of biodiversity. So next, which is we're going to go to the advantage. So advantage tackle the improve of efficiency and effectiveness. Regionalism encourages local government to pool resources, talent, and efforts. Collaborating in this way creates more effective planning that all governments, both big and small, can participate in, and it also creates a large budget to deliver stronger results. So so what are, so we are here in the advantages. So we're looking for positive effects, which is there are impact on regionalism, competition and market expansions due to the effects of declining costs leading to the existing supply of cheaper goods. So next, which is the that's the positive effects or positive impact of advantages. Advantage. So move on. So this is disadvantages. So the drawback of regionalism include the possibility for each individual city or country to lose their respective independence and or identity. So Johnny Park and Johnson, Vice Mayor, the outside world does not see city or country boundary lines when they're talking or they're making a decision to locate in our area. So the negative impact of it is it can have any deflection of trade when originally cheaper foreign imports are replaced by more expensive domestic production. So that's the impact, the negative impact of regionalism when it comes to regionalism. So one disadvantage of regionalism is that it can be too inclusive and keep new individuals out. An advantage of regionalism include having individuals learn their roles in the community. One disadvantage of regionalism is that it can be too inclusive and keep new individuals out. So based on what I've researched, based on Ashit Bohara, he gives an disadvantages. He tackled the disadvantages, the pollutions. There are many clean and livable cities in China, but the first and second tier are the ones where are the jobs are available. So next, which is the food safety, over competition for resources, education, medical, and etc. Skyrocketing house price, distorted value system. So that's all, and that's all the Ashi Buhara advantages answer. And so I researched about regionalism, which is regionalism is a formative discourse. It seeks to achieve legitimacy for definitions, boundaries, and to obtain approval for this definition in a cultural and political and popular and official understanding. So those which is the regionalism is concerned with giving meaning to bounded materials and symbolic words in an effort to create create inter-subject meanings. So that's all my report, and again, I'm Engine Cadet DOMUGHO, and thank you.
Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. I'm here to report about the what factors regionalism. More specifically, regionalism refers to three distinct elements: movements demanding territorial autonomy within unitary states, the organizations of central states on the region's basis for the delivery of its policies, including region of development policies, political decentralizations, and the regional autonomy. Example of economy regionalism includes the free trade agreements and bilateral trade agreements, common markets, and economic union. The importance of regionalism is performative discourse. It seeks to achieve legitimacy for definitions of boundaries and to obtain approval to definitions in the popular officials' understanding. And the disadvantage of regionalism is includes having individuals learning the rules in the community. One advantage of regionalism is can to inclusive and keep new individuals out. Populations and land use of regions affects regional developments. Regional occur near areas with favorable locations, pain relief, sufficient rainfall, develop and agriculture, transportations, and the last is industries and trade. Thank you, sir. Regionalism is a key concept in the human geography, denoting mobilizations of cultural, economics, and the political sub-nations divisions. Regionalism topicals presupposes a regional identity and concerns with giving meanings to boundaries, materials, and symbolic words in an effort to create the intersubjective meaning. The regionalism is a development of the political and economic systems based on the loyalty to distinct geographic regions. Regionalism often the result in the formal political and economic arrangements between groups of countries intended to achieve common goals. Discriminations by the state's administrations and concentrations of development activities, and administrative powers and political powers to particular religions have been main reason for the demands of new states like Talanga, etc. This neglect of northeast regions in the economic developments and providing the relief during the disasters like food and the seasons for the emergencies for the secessionist movement of the Nagalands,
etc. in the country. Regionalism against loss of economic opportunities and exploitations of resources by the outsider gives the feelings to other peoples of particular regions that others are benefits whereas they are losing. Movement in Assam against exploitations of resources by the outsiders, especially Bangladesh, Iran, and the son of Uwals concepts the marriages fall in this category. Political reason. Attempts by the political parties to exploit feelings to gain power. Various political outfits try to exploit the submissions, identities, feelings of the during this process of the flares up to the issues regional identities showing the distinctive glorious past. The Khalistan movement of Punjab during the 1980s was because of such as the political manipulations. In the recent separations, the Telangana Kanda said to be the result the political subdivisions of the particular political parties and the aspirations of the peoples for particular autonomy. Many regions want to political autonomy ranging from the complete concessions to autonomy with the confines of constitutions and the raise of voice even truths arm. Some of these regions don't feel to be parts of the nations because they're historical separate of the existence.
Good morning, sir, and good morning, classmates. I'm Engine Cadet Royalana Espina, and now we are going to report about how does regionalization affect globalizations. Regionalizations as a component of globalizations. Regionalism is emerging today as a component of globalizations. Regionalism is emerging today as a potent force in the process of globalizations. If globalization is regarded as a conversion of a temporal and spatial aspect of a social relations, then regionalism is maybe understood as but a component or a chapter of a globalization's Metzelman 1996 until 189. According to this view, by helping national economies to become competitive in the world market, regional integrations will lead multilateral cooperations as on a global scale. The adoptions of a liberal premises about cooperations and the opening of the local economies. Thus is the process of regional integrations can be interpreted as part of international or global economic order at the end of the 20th century if impelled by raw material force of the market. Then it becomes a result and component of globalizations. Moreover, since globalization unfolds uneven rather than uniform dynamic patterns, It may reveal itself in processes that are less than geographically global in scope. And the next is how do regionalization and globalizations relate to each other? There are three possible options regarding to the mutual relations between regionalizations and globalizations, especially under economic dimension. Number 1, regionalizations as a component of globalization's convergent trends. Number 2, regionalizations as a challenge of a response to the globalization's divergent trends. And number 3 is regionalizations and globalizations as a parallel process of overlapping trends. And regionalizations as a challenge to the globalizations. Is a regionalism a means of sword as something else to the globalizations? Can be a regionalism or leads to a more pluralistic world or other populated by diverse and distinct patterns of socioeconomic and organizations that are accountable to their populations. Unlike the first trend, the impetus toward regionalizations might stem in this case from reactions and challenge to a outmore of undemocratic and inexorable economic rules of globalizations. This reaction can be motivated by the either of nationalistic, mercantilistic, or pluralistic of humanistic concerns. In some case, even the both. In the first place, by creating trades block and integrations of framework based on our mercantile premise, regionalisms opposed to be a neoliberal harmony of interest view the world economic in a favor of nationals and regional loyalties and frameworks. Conversely, the direct toward affirmations of regions might be motivated by the denial of single universe culture and ideology as promotions of alternative or pluralistic forms of social and political organizations other than the nation states of the region's level. The next is effects of regionalizations. Number 1 is provincial improvements, and number 2 is a growth of domestic products and organized and trading system and opportunities of the flourish and increase in profit and preservations of cultures and traditions and demand for high quality in life and challenges. A monopolized system can offer aid to another, less support from national government, less promotions of a culture. Regionalizations of globalizations as a parallel process. When we are referred to the word economy, and the encompasses the trends of both regional inactions, the divisions of the international economy into the merged regions of North America or the Americas, Europe, and East Asia globalizations. Conversely, in the international global security arena, it is more difficult to assess the coexistence of security communities and security complexes without and overall dimensions of a global security, which is less evident. Thus, rather than reacting to each other, a third possibility is a regionalism of a globality might act as a parallel of overlapping process, and the two is your areas of economics and security. And that's all. Thank you.
So, hello everyone. I am Engine Cadet Arvin Melegrito, and I will report or discuss to you about the regionalism in the Philippines. So, a short recap. So, what is regionalism? Regionalism is a political ideology which seeks to increase the political power, influence, and or self-determined of the people of one or more sub-national regions. So the regionalism concept encourages municipalities to look beyond their boundaries and recognize that working together towards the betterment of an entire area will ultimately prove beneficial to each locality within it. So, what is regionalism in the Philippines? So, regionalism is the Philippines in the Philippines can be traced to its history and geography. The Philippines is separated from the rest of Asia by waters. It is an archipelago with approximately 7,000 islands and islets. So, regionalism is a political ideology which seeks to increase the political power, influence, and or self-determination of the people of one or more subnational regions. So, because the Philippines is an archipelago, many of its provinces are separated from each other by water. On the other hand, large islands like Luzon and Mindanao are dotted with mountain range that also separate different large areas. As a result, their physical isolation from each other, Filipinos have rich multicultural heritage and speak 150 different languages and dialects. Physical and language barriers have also contributed to the growth of regionalism. It must be noted that even though Filipinos speak many languages, there are only 8 major languages based on the number of speakers. And these are Tagalog, Cebuano, Ilocano, Hiligaynon or Ilonggo, Waray, Bicolano, Pangasinense, and Kapampangan. Of this, Filipino, which is based on Tagalog and was formerly spelled as Filipino, is the official language along with English. Most textbooks, laws, signboards, and mass media are either in English or Filipino. Regional differences are heightened in urban centers. At the University of the Philippines in Metro Manila, students tend to group themselves according to their regional orientations. Notes that regionalism also dictated the choice of residence, network of friends, and patterns of organization of Filipino immigrants to the United States. And that Filipinos who hail from the same regions tend to group together wherever they are. They tend to warm up to others who come from the same provinces as theirs. As Philippine historian Teodoro Agoncillo concludes, the Filipino does not think in terms of national boundaries but of regional homogeneity. So, next. Regionalism encourages local governments to pool resources, talent, and efforts Collaborating in this way creates more effective planning that all governments, both big and small, can participate in it. And it also creates a larger budget to deliver stronger results. The creation of the RDC answers the need for a single planning body whose main concern is the overall socio-economic development of the region. This was an offshoot of the implementation of the Integrated Recognition Plan of 1972, which divided the country into administrative regions. So, regionalism encouraged local governments. So, example of regions in the Philippines. So, regions, we have the Region 1, which is the Ilocos region, known for some agricultural. Next is Region 2, Cagayan Valley, which is also an example of a agricultural region. Next is Region 3, or the Central Luzon. Is still the same. Next is the Region 4A, or the Calabar, which is the Calabar zone. Next is the Mimaropa region. The its major industries are agriculture and fishing. Marble is the most well-known product of the province. So next is the Region 5, or Bicol region. Region 6, Western Visayas. Region 7, the Central Visayas, like here in Cebu, pure Visaya. Region 8, Eastern Visayas. Region 9, Zamboanga Peninsula. Region 10, Northern Mindanao. Region 11, Davao region. Region 12, Soksargen. Region 13, Caraga. Then NCR, or National Capital Region, also known as Metropolitan Manila, is the country's political, economic, and educational center, the smallest region in the Philippines, and it is the most densely populated region, which is home of over 12 million Filipinos. And CAR, or Cordillera Administrative Region. It is a wood-based economy. Its extensive water resources and its rich mineral deposits such as iron, gold, silver, nickel, chromite, manganese, and copper. Its leading crops are palay, banana, and coconut. So lastly is the BRMM, or Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. It is a transformation of local government units into inclusive, accountable, responsive, and transparent institution, and promote conflict-free and disaster resilient communities in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Mostly provinces that are populate, most of the population are Muslims. So each region has its own way of living, or some what it has been good at. So that would be all for my part of my report. That would be all. Thank you.
So, good morning, sir. I'm Indian Karit Norio. So, this is my part. What is the difference between regionalism and globalization? So,
Before discussing the differences, let us define first regionalism and globalization. Regionalism is defined as a political will to create a formal arrangement among states on a geographically restricted basis, or simply the process of dividing an area into smaller segments called religion. Globalization means the transformation or businesses to employ global supply chains and sell in global markets, or to process of international integration arising from the interchange of the world views, product, ideas, and other aspects such as technology, etc. So, different between regionalism and globalization in terms of first, nature. Globalization promotes the integration of economies across state borders all around the world, but regionalization is precisely the opposite because it is dividing an area into smaller segments. Next, market. Globalization allows many to trade in international levels, so it allows free market, but in regionalism system, monopolies are more likely to develop. Next, cultural and social relations. So, globalization acceleration to multiculturalism by free and inexpensive movement of people, but regionalization does not support this. Next, aid. Globalized international community is also more willing to come to the aid of a country stricken by a natural disaster, but a regionalized system not get involved in the affairs of the areas. So next, technological advances. Globalization has driven great advances in technology, but advanced technology is rarely available in one country or region. Next, regionalism limits activity as it focuses on the things happens in the region. It means culture, social, economic, and knowledge exchange with external parties are focused on a region rather than what outside in areas. Globalization thought makes you know the climate around you. You open your eyes and see that national economies are just a drop in the ocean, but the world is interconnected. You understand the economy is larger than one country, but capital and goods flow internationally. This means knowing the definition enables you to find more opportunities. So, as a summary, I have here a Venn diagram to fully understand these two concepts with their similarities and differences in general. So, first, globalization, global integration or international trade of investment, technology, and culture. More promotion of culture, foreign direct investment. So, in next, another one, regionalization, regional integration of countries that divided into areas called segments. Less promotion of culture, promote domestic product. So both of them aims for economically growth and movement of economic integration. So that's all, sir. Thank you.